Hey guys, so I am back. I accidentally took 2 weeks off because I'm a horrible planner, and I went on a trip to Lassen National Park, which was unbelievable. I hiked a volcano, went in some caves. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. We didn't have service at all except for this little cafe that was like a 30-minute drive from where we were staying at the campsite. So I couldn't go on my phone, and it was great. It was great to get away and have a little social media break and work break. So sorry I didn't post for 2 weeks, but I'm back. So obviously this video might come across as a little contrary to a lot of things that I preach on this channel, especially regarding fast fashion, but that's just it. I don't want to be preachy, especially about boycotting something like it's easy for everyone to do. That's not what I want to do at all, and ignore all of the nuances and facets that it has, and it's not just black and white. So I received a lot of comments, especially on my last video for Shein, that I come across as just a privileged white woman preaching. And honestly, where is the lie? I absolutely am a privileged white woman talking about boycotting something as if it's easy, which is not what I want to do or promote. If you've watched my past fast fashion videos in their entirety, you might know that I don't just promote boycotting something, 100% all or nothing. I try to encourage my viewers to simply reduce and rethink the things that they're buying to make a difference. It's not an all or nothing thing, just like veganism or vegetarianism or sustainability. It can't be all or nothing for a lot of people, and to promote it that way is just unrealistic. We need everyone trying imperfectly than 5% of people being perfect. That's not going to make a big difference in the world, but everyone trying their best and trying to reduce what they can and being imperfect and being human about it is what we need to make a change. Your actions do in fact matter, even if you're still buying fast fashion or single-use plastics or whatever the topic may be. It's mostly about being more conscious and aware of your buying habits and reducing where you can. So that all being said, I want to actually explain why boycotting something in its entirety is actually a privilege, and this applies to many different things, including veganism, sustainability, and things like that. I'll be focusing more on fast fashion today because that applies more to my channel and what I talk about here. And I want you to know that when I talk negatively about a specific fast fashion company, like I have been doing, because this series is not over, there are many more companies to talk about. When I go into specifics about a company, it's to encourage you to think about where you're putting your money. I want my viewers to think twice about where they're shopping and making sure they aren't supporting bad companies, but at the end of the day, I still want you to make the best decision for you and your lifestyle. The last thing I want to do is preach and shame anyone into thinking or feeling guilt or thinking that they can't shop at one particular store anymore because I said so. Because who am I? I am just about spreading awareness about companies, and then you, the buyer, can make a better, more informed decision about where you want to spend your money. However, I do get very excited when I get messages saying that you have cut out fast fashion a lot out of your life. That just brings me so much joy. If I can make a difference in that way, I'd be so happy. So before we get into the video, I just want to thank Native for sponsoring this video. So you may or may not know that I'm cruelty free, and I have been for, I think it's been like 4 or 5 years now. I've been cruelty free. It's been a minute, and deodorant was one of the hardest things to switch to cruelty free to more natural, because cruelty free and natural kind of go hand in hand. And I tried literally over 20 different brands trying to find a natural deodorant that works. A lot of them are really sticky or have like a different texture than what we're used to with other deodorants, or they smell natural, which I'm not a huge fan of that. So I have been using Native, clearly. These are my scents. I'll get into that in a second. And guys, I will never go back to another natural deodorant. I know this video is sponsored by Native, and so yes, I'm paid to say this, but I want you to know you will see me using this probably for the rest of my life. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. This is the best natural deodorant I have ever tried for so many reasons. The texture is incredible. It's just your regular cream application. It's not sticky, it dries fast, it's not like bunched and clumped up in there, and it works. I don't smell at all by the end of the day. Like, it literally lasts all day long, which is actually really huge for an aluminum free deodorant. I usually have to reapply throughout the day. So the 3 scents that I picked out and would recommend are cactus flower and poppy. This one's very floral. Eucalyptus and mint. This one's a little bit more very clean smelling. I love this one. Apple and honeysuckle just smells like fall. So good. So let me just say thank you, Native, to wanting to sponsor this video, because I'm not going back. This is amazing. You could sponsor every video if you want. I'll become a spokesperson. So normally 3 deodorants from Native are $36, but if you click the link in my description and use my code, you can get 3 deodorants for $24, and that is 33% off, which is such a good price point for a cruelty-free, vegan, natural deodorant. So now let's get back into why boycotting fast fashion is a privilege. So the overarching umbrella reason why it's a privilege is probably obvious to many of you, and that is accessibility. I'm gonna kind of go through the specific facets of accessibility that impact why not everyone can boycott fast fashion. The first one is obvious, and that is cost. Fast fashion is cheap, and not everyone can afford to shop a sustainable, ethical clothing company. I saw a lot of people on my Shein video saying that they purchase from there because it's all that they can afford, and we do have to think about that when we're talking negatively about these brands, that there are going to be people where that's really their only option to get new clothing. I always get a lot of comments on my fast fashion videos as well because they're so negative. They're like, well, what about the positives? Why don't you share your favorite ethical clothing companies so we know where to shop? Personally, I don't buy from ethical, sustainable clothing companies that are new clothing. I personally can find everything that I need at a thrift store or online secondhand. I personally would not want to spend the money on new clothing. Maybe that'll change later in my life when I make a little bit more money, but as of right now, I don't want to spend a lot of money on ethically made clothing items when I can just find everything I need at a thrift store. But that does lead me to my next facet of accessibility, and that is secondhand, buying secondhand. Not everyone has access to secondhand stores where they live, and buying secondhand online can get really, really expensive if you're paying for international shipping. I wish I could remember where I saw this interaction, but someone basically said that there's no excuse to buying fast fashion, that there's secondhand stores everywhere, which is not true. And even if it was true and they did have secondhand stores, it doesn't mean that they're gonna be good clothing. Like, we don't want to settle for ugly or damaged clothing just because it's secondhand, you know? I think not a lot of people talk about that. Like, yeah, you may have 1 or 2 secondhand stores in your area, but it's probably going to be a lot of bad clothing. We don't want to just, like, especially if we like fashion and we like expressing ourselves through how we dress, we're not just going to settle for grandma clothes every time we need clothes just because it's secondhand. They also said you can always find secondhand clothing online, which is not an ideal option for everyone everywhere in the world. I think people forget that people live in remote locations and shipping to them is going to be very expensive, and then you're basically paying prices for new sustainable clothing brands. And then we just go back into cost. Not everyone can afford secondhand sometimes. The next major facet, which is related to this, is time. Time for secondhand. Time to shop secondhand is a privilege. Not everyone has the time to scour through thrift stores and go to thrift stores all the time to find the clothes that they need, or even search online, which can take hours in itself as well, for clothes that they need and clothes that they really like. It's a process to shop secondhand, right? I have the privilege of being a YouTuber, and I have time where I can go out and buy the clothes that I want. Same thing with online. I have the free time to be able to shop secondhand. People who have multiple jobs or families to care for or just busy lifestyles, they can't spend that time that is necessary to shop secondhand. So I think one of the biggest reasons why it's a privilege to boycott fast fashion is size inclusivity. Many ethical and sustainable clothing companies do not cater to all body types. Also, it's worth pointing out that the plus size selection when shopping secondhand is not great. And with thrifting being so trendy and having been been so trendy for years now, a lot of people will purchase the plus size clothing items or larger sizes so it fits oversized on them because that's the look, or they will use them to alter them. So the plus size shoppers have less options. I want to point out that I am very guilty of this. I have done this in the past. I've been a lot more conscious lately about the sizes that I shop in and primarily stick to my personal size range. Also, I've just been more conscious about the amount of clothing that I'm buying secondhand, because when I first gave up fast fashion over 2 years ago, I thrifted a lot. That was like my thing. I switched to thrifted content and I felt like I had to constantly be thrifting and buying a lot of clothes. But just because it's secondhand doesn't inherently mean that it's ethical for me to buy a shit ton of it. So I've definitely changed my thrifting habits lately and seen it more as a treat that I do. Well, now I haven't been thrifting in months because of everything being locked down. But you know, just changing my habits as far as what I'm buying, making sure it's something that I will actually wear instead of just buying it because it's cute and I like it and then selling it a year later because I never wear it. Anyway, Body Posy Panda on Instagram posted a great post over there talking about sustainable fashion and privilege in regards to sizing, cost, and time, so I highly recommend checking it out. I will link her Instagram down below, but I especially loved when she said plus size people are only just getting the same fast fashion options that straight size people have had for decades. And that's absolutely true. Companies like Shein and Pretty Little Thing and Fashion Nova are now carrying a wide selection of sizes because fashion is becoming more size inclusive, which is great. We're still behind. It's not perfect, but a lot of people only have fast fashion as a reasonable option to be able to access plus size clothing. I think it's important to point out that those who love fashion, I kind of touched on this earlier, if you only have like 1 or 2 thrift stores and it's like bad clothes, a lot of sustainable, ethical brands, fashion brands, have natural looking clothes or they look sustainable, which is fine for some people, but that's not going to be in everyone's fashion tastes. And I think that's also important to point out because not a lot of people like the look of sustainable clothing items. I'm sure there's a wide array out there that I'm just not aware of that have like fun clothing, but if you're looking for a specific style, you might not find it looking at ethical clothing companies and thrifting a specific item. We all know how hard that can be. So I just want to say that there are some things that I buy new personally because you need a specific thing for a specific purpose. Bathing suits, which I have thrifted in the past, but I buy new mostly. Socks and underwear, I buy new. A lot of athletic wear, which I also have thrifted in the past. I'm wearing thrifted shorts right now that are athletic shorts from Goodwill, but sometimes I do buy these things new because we are needing a specific thing and it may not come in our size or it may not be something that we actually want to wear. I think being picky is honestly a really good thing when it comes to sustainability because it allows us to only buy the things that we're actually looking for and actually like versus settling for things that we don't really love and then having to get rid of them a year later. I kind of went on a tangent there that really didn't have much to do with this video, but I just wanted to point out that I'm human, I'm not perfect. I did give up fast fashion over 2 years ago, but there are some things that I have purchased new. It's easy to sit and talk about why everyone should be boycotting fast fashion, right? That's the goal, that's the ideal, that we stop supporting these companies. It's easy to preach to go vegan or be sustainable, like minimalist, 100%, all or nothing, but we must talk about the privilege that goes along with these things. It's extremely difficult for so many people, and when you present it in an all or nothing way, it's very discouraging to them and to the point where they don't even want to try. To ignore the challenges that many people face when trying to be more sustainable does a disservice to the entire movement. I want to reiterate that we need everyone trying imperfectly than a small percentage being perfect. So please do not feel guilty, shamed, or pressured, especially from my videos. That's the last thing that I want to promote. I want to promote reducing fast fashion consumption in a realistic, reasonable way for you to attempt to do so. And we're all human. None of us are perfect. I'm not perfect at being sustainable. Clearly not perfect. But I think as long as we're all trying our best, that is all we can do. I do want to say that we do need to make an effort though. So I don't want anyone to use these concepts as an excuse to why they're still shopping fast fashion, you really need to take a look in the mirror and, you know, confront why you're shopping fast fashion still for your personal lifestyle. And if it fits any of these things, that's totally fine. Like I said, it's a privilege to be able to boycott something 100%. But I do think it takes all of us making a small effort to at least reduce the amount of clothing that we're buying. If you still have to shop fast fashion, that's okay. Just think twice about everything that you're buying. Don't just buy it because it's cheap and that you might wear it one time. Buy it because you want to love it for a long time, which it's fast fashion. You might not be able to love it for a long time, but just buy less. That's the goal here. I would love for you guys to expand more on this. If you can think of other facets of privilege when it comes to boycotting something, doesn't have to just be fast fashion, please leave it in a comment down below. I hope this clears up some of the comments that I was getting about me being, you know, privileged and promoting the concept of boycotting. I get it. I've never wanted to promote it as an all or nothing thing, and if it ever came across that way, I apologize. I am checking my privilege and knowing that it is a privilege that I have been able to do this, and I'm not saying that it's for everyone. But please leave a comment with your feedback down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.